Continuing our coverage of Husker Countdown on 90.3 KRNU, I'm Kellen Avican, joined by CNN White House correspondent Jeff Zeleny. And Jeff, you're a graduate here of Lincoln and the College of Journalism and Mass Communications. Thanks for taking your time out today to talk with us.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So we want to talk about President Trump's comments that he made a couple weeks ago about the NFL players kneeling at the national anthem. You covered all of that stuff. What was one of the couple of the main takeaways that you had from all the sides with that debate?
It was certainly interesting because it was a debate that had largely gone away. This was not something that was consuming the top of everyone's mind, and we're sort of wondering, why did the president decide to bring this up? And it was a Friday night rally in Alabama. We was down there campaigning for a Senate candidate, and he launched into this very explicit tirade about NFL players. He used some vulgar language to describe these players who decide to take a knee. And so as a political reporter, I was trying to figure out, why is he talking about this? Why is he elevating this to the national debate? And I think that it was all politics. I mean, he was simply trying to remind his base that he is still with them on some things. He was trying to distract and deflect a little bit some other things that were going on. But it certainly, I think people agreed with the substance of what he was saying. The majority of Americans, we took a poll at CNN and showed about 60% of Americans agreed that players should stand, but the same number of people thought the president should stay out of this.
Jeff Zeleny, senior White House correspondent for CNN, joining Husker Countdown today. Jeff, a lot of people will talk about and say that sports is a way for them to get away from politics and everything. What's your reaction to a majority opinion on that?
Look, I think that sports is a getaway. Sports is an escape, and we have so many pressures and so many challenges these days. Sunday football or Saturday or whenever the game is played these days is a time to get away from that. So I do think that this was injecting politics into that. And we heard the reaction. I think so interesting to see, a lot of the owners obviously support their players and largely wish this would go away because they know this is a losing proposition, injecting politics into the game like this. But the president went there, I guess, and so we'll see how this continues. But I think what we're not talking about now is the underlying issue of why Colin Kaepernick decided to take a knee in the first place. He was, expressing his displeasure with policing in America, and now we're talking about this as a patriotic act. So, I think that we have sports for a reason. It's separate from politics, but the president decided to link it, and we'll see if he brings it up again. But a lot of people around him hope he doesn't.
Now, Nebraska, we know, doesn't have any pro football teams, but last year, 3 Nebraska players, Michael Rose-Ivey, Deshaun Neal, and Mohamed Berry, all took a knee during the national anthem during the Northwestern game. How do you think that relates for people like Nebraska that love Nebraska football, even though they're not a pro team? What do you think? What's your reaction to all of that, then?
Well, it's interesting at home games at Nebraska that the players are never on the field for the national anthem because the band is on the field. So I think that that is something that the university is probably relieved by because this is not happening in public. But look, I think some people probably would disagree with their decision to take a knee, but I think it's also important to remember why they're doing it. And taking a knee is a form of protest, but I wouldn't call it a not respectful form of protest. It's simply taking a knee here. So I think we should give, especially young student athletes, some slack on this and actually, some praise if they are standing up for their convictions here.
And then lastly, Jeff Zeleny, CNN White House senior correspondent, joining us on Husker Countdown today. You talk about with players, whether it's an institutional level at college or in the pros, where does free speech, what are the boundaries that owners and administrators really at all levels in athletics have to walk in terms of free speech and sport together?
I think that's a question that is unfolding now, and certainly and with social media and other things, free speech is extended to multi-platforms. It's not just talking out loud. But look, I think players absolutely have free speech, and I think that this is something that a lot of NFL owners, who many of whom are supporters of this president, wish he wouldn't have brought it up because it simply is creating a potential discord between the players and the owners. But I think players should have the right for free speech, and if you're a fan and you don't want to come to the game, That's certainly your right as well. But I think that the moment of this seems to have moved on a little bit. But again, the underlying issues for what people were taking a knee for initially, those still are very much alive here. So I think it may be more constructive for some of our leaders to talk about those issues as opposed to linking this to patriotism.
All right, that was Jeff Zeleny, CNN White House correspondent. Jeff, thanks for your time today.
Hey, thank you. Go Big Red.
Next on Husker Countdown, we have the game time and temperature update with Zach Penrice. You're listening to Nebraska Football on 90.3 KRNU.